Oil markets reacted sharply to news that the second round of US-Iran peace talks stalled over the weekend. The Brent crude rose another 1%.
World leaders expressed shock following the shooting incident at the Washington press dinner, with many focusing on the message that violence has no place in democracy.
Mali's defense minister was killed on Saturday as the junta-run country was struck by coordinated attacks on its military by jihadist separatists.
Authorities in Northern Ireland say an Irish Republican group, New IRA, could be behind an overnight car bomb attack near Belfast late on Saturday.
At Monday's opening, oil markets reacted sharply to the news that the second round of US-Iran peace talks stalled over the weekend. The price of Brent crude rose another 1%, climbing above $106 per barrel and bringing the total weekly increase to 10%. On Saturday, Donald Trump announced that the United States remained unwilling to return to the negotiating table in Pakistan. He cited Tehran's failure to meet U.S. demands and noted ongoing uncertainty regarding the country's current leadership. The regional instability continues to impact global logistics. Due to the threat of Iranian missile attacks, tankers are still being forced to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. In response to the crisis, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi expressed interest in seeing Oman join future efforts to secure the strait. Seeking further diplomatic support, Araghchi traveled to St. Petersburg on Monday to discuss a potential Middle East settlement with Vladimir Putin.
Hundreds of vessels remain immobilized in the Gulf, leaving tens of thousands of seafarers unable to cross the Strait of Hormuz as the maritime blockade enters a critical phase. Between 13 and 19 April, roughly 80 vessels managed to transit the waterway, a staggering drop from the average of 130 transits per day recorded before the war. The United Nations reports that dozens of ships have come under fire since the conflict began, with at least 10 mariners killed in the line of duty. Those currently anchored near Iranian ports describe a tense atmosphere of isolation and constant threat.
Kami di sini sudah 1 bulan. Begitu kemarin kita di sini sempat ada serangan drone. Pertama waktu saya baru tiba di sini tanggal 3 di pelabuhan, begitu sandar ada serangan drone. Cuman tidak tahu drone dari mana, cuman saya dapat infonya dari Iran. Itu dia meledak di dekat tangki full oil dekat kapal kita.
Although US President Donald Trump has extended the ceasefire indefinitely, Washington maintains a strict blockade on Iranian ports. In retaliation, Tehran has fired upon several vessels and seized 2 others, further complicating any hopes for a safe corridor.
Before ceasefire, there were so many issues raised by the seafarers that there was shortage of the food, and some ships started rationing of the water nearly 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. The major failure was the seafarers was not able to communicate with their family.
The International Maritime Organization is now calling for an urgent humanitarian corridor to evacuate trapped crews. However, Tehran continues to demand tolls for passage, insisting the strait is only open to vessels it deems non-hostile.
World leaders expressed shock after an armed man charged at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in a hotel in Washington, with many focusing on the message that violence has no place in a democracy. The suspect was seen running through a security barricade in a hotel as several shots were fired. One officer was shot but was protected by a bulletproof vest and did not suffer serious injuries. European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said she spoke with US President Donald Trump after the attempted attack. Violence has no place in politics ever, she wrote on X. And the EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas expressed relief that everyone was okay. She added that, quote, an event meant to honour a free press should never become a scene of fear. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni expressed her full solidarity and sincere sympathy to Trump and others present. She said spaces of free debate and information should never be, quote, poisoned by fanaticism. And German Chancellor Friedrich Merz posted online that democracies are decided by majorities and not by the gun. Other leaders from across the world, such as France's Macron, Israel's Netanyahu and Turkey's Erdogan, expressed similar sentiments.
The government of Mali is in crisis after the killing of Defense Minister General Sadio Camara on Saturday. The junta-run country was struck by one of the biggest coordinated attacks on its army in the capital, Bamako, and several other cities and towns. General Camara died after a car bomb driven by a suicide bomber targeted his residence. Separatist rebels also seized towns and military bases, which is confirmed by the Malian government. The head of the military junta, General Assimi Goita, was reportedly moved to a safe location after his home was targeted. Following military coups, the juntas in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso turned from Western to Russian allies, looking to Moscow for help in combating Islamic militants. But the security situation has worsened with a record number of attacks reported since 2025. Russian mercenaries hired by Mali's military agreed to withdraw from Kidal after 2 days of clashes, the separatist Azawad Liberation Front group said. For years, the FLA has fought to establish an independent homeland in northern Mali, where it already effectively controls a vast territory.
Police in Northern Ireland say they suspect dissident Irish Republicans could be behind an overnight car bomb attack outside a police station near Belfast late on Saturday. The car bomb went off after what was termed a gas cylinder-type device placed in a delivery driver's hijacked car and driven to the location. According to the police service, dissident Irish Republican paramilitary group, the New IRA, could be responsible.
It is now the second attack of this nature in just a month. There are very many similarities between the two incidents, and as a consequence of that, our early working hypothesis is that this may well be the work of the New IRA, who claimed responsibility for the attack in Lurgan back on the 30th of March.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer condemned the attack and said, quote, "Those responsible will be brought to justice." The attack followed a similar attempted bombing on the 30th of March when the device failed to explode outside a police station in the nearby town of Lurgan.
As Ukraine marks the 40th anniversary of the Chernobyl disaster, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Russia of committing nuclear terrorism. Zelensky said Russia is bringing the world to the brink of man-made disaster and referenced a Russian drone strike on the Chernobyl site last year. Ukrainians, meanwhile, gathered over the weekend to honor those who lost their lives, as well as those whose mission was to clean up after the disaster. On April 26, 1986, a human mistake made during a safety test led to an explosion at the nuclear plant in northern Ukraine. A UN report from 2005 estimated that 4,000 people died as a result of the accident, while Greenpeace puts the number closer to 100,000 people. Russian strikes on Ukraine continued on the 40th anniversary of the disaster, with at least 3 killed and 4 wounded overnight into Sunday. 2 of the deaths were reported in the frontline northern eastern region of Sumy, while 1 person died in Dnipro, according to regional officials. In Russian-annexed Crimea, a man was killed in a Ukrainian attack, its Moscow-installed governor said.
A UN-backed report says some 2/3 of people facing food crisis globally last year lived in just 10 countries, with 1/3 of them in Sudan, Nigeria, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. According to the Global Report on Food Crisis, conflict remains the main driver of acute food insecurity based on data from the UN, the European Union, and humanitarian agencies.
What we see is that first, a very strong increase in the number of people that are in a catastrophic situation in terms of food insecurity. So people that are in famine or near famine-like situation. So to give you an idea, this number has been multiplied by 9, so reaching 1.4 million people.
For the first time in the report, now in its 10th edition, famine was confirmed in 2 separate contexts, in Gaza and parts of Sudan, in the same year. Around 266 million people in 47 countries or territories experienced high levels of acute food insecurity in 2025, nearly double the share recorded in 2016, according to the report.
A new patient arrives at the hospital, a rather unusual patient since it is a wild animal, a very young female fox found alone without its mother.
Donc ça, on a un tout petit renard qui doit avoir 2 semaines, qui a été trouvé dans le jardin d'une dame.
Taken in by the teams at the Wildlife Hospital on the grounds of the National Veterinary School, the young fox is being examined.
Elle n'est pas en hypothermie, elle n'est pas déshydratée, donc elle est relativement stable quand même. Et voilà.
Last year, more than 10,400 wild animals were treated here, including many European mammals such as foxes, deers and hedgehogs. The animals often arrive young between April and September after their birth. The caretaker's goal to prepare them for return to the wild.
Une fois qu'ils auront atteint un poids qu'on estime convenable, ils seront transférés dans le centre de réhabilitation jusqu'à ce qu'ils soient vraiment assez grands pour passer dans un enclos de relâché progressif.
Non-invasive species are not released. Between 60 and 80% of the animals that arrive here are victims of human activities such as road collisions.
Donc dans un sens, on a une responsabilité à aussi prendre en charge ces animaux qui se retrouvent ici dans la majorité des cas à cause de nous. Donc de leur offrir une seconde chance, un espace de soins.
The veterinary hospital is managed by the Faune Alpha Association, which was founded nearly 40 years ago. It primarily operates thanks to donations and the work of volunteers.